Hello there, welcome to Thursday's ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the southeast. Boris Johnson visits Lid Airport and unveils radical plans to fly Channel migrants 4,000 miles to Rwanda.
It means that economic migrants taking advantage of the asylum system will not get to stay in the UK, while those in genuine need will be properly protected, including with access to legal services on arrival in Rwanda.
As hundreds more migrants arrive at Dover today, the plans are condemned as cruel, costly and unworkable by refugee welfare groups.
We think it's going to cost a huge amount of money, will damage Britain's reputation, and actually we think it's unlikely that many people will ever actually get sent there.
Also tonight, the big Easter getaway, and it could be the most chaotic. We're live with the latest from Gatwick and we're on the slow road to Dover.
And Chris Tarrant lends his support to stroke survivors as he tells a new support club in Sussex about his own fight for fitness. Good evening. Some of those who cross the Channel in small boats to claim asylum in the southeast will be sent to Rwanda, where the government says they can resettle and rebuild their lives.
The Prime Minister, who was in Kent today, said the new policy aims to deter migrants and break the business model of the people smugglers. Opposition politicians say the scheme is unworkable. Rwanda is in East Africa, 4,000 miles away. The plan will cost British taxpayers £120 million.
Well, Mr Johnson also said the Royal Navy has now taken charge of the operation to stop the Channel crossings, taking over from Border Force. He said in future, no boat will get to the UK undetected. We'll be live in Dover for reaction shortly. First, this report from Phil Hornby.
The world's busiest shipping lane, busier than ever today. The small boats just keep on coming. Hundreds of people arrived today, 600 arrived yesterday. But Boris Johnson won a huge majority at the last election, promising to take back control of our borders. Instead, the number of people heading to Kent and Sussex like this has spiralled completely out of control. Last year, a record 28,000, and those are the ones we know about. This year, it's predicted there'll be many more. The Tory party's private polling says their supporters and many other voters are frustrated and angry. So Mr Johnson came to Lid in Kent today to announce what he called a radical new policy.
From today, our new migration and economic development partnership will mean that anyone entering the UK illegally, as well as those who have arrived illegally since January the 1st, may now be relocated to Rwanda. This innovative approach, driven by our shared humanitarian impulse and made possible by Brexit freedoms, will provide safe and legal routes for asylum while disrupting the business model of the gangs.
Rwanda is 4,000 miles away. The Home Secretary's been there today to confirm the arrangement.
This will see some of those arriving illegally in the UK, such as those crossing the Channel in dangerous small boats, relocated to Rwanda to resettle and to rebuild their lives.
With local elections looming, Mr Johnson hopes today's announcement will shore up his party's support and wrong-foot Labour. Their leader today rejected the new policy.
It's a desperate announcement by a Prime Minister who just wants to distract from his own law-breaking. They're unworkable, they're extortionate, they're going to cost taxpayers billions of pounds, and they just reflect a Prime Minister who's got no grit, no answers to the questions that need answering.
The Lib Dems say the new policy would cost a fortune and wouldn't work. The Greens call it vicious and grotesque. And some Conservative MPs don't like it either. So stand by for a huge row when they all get back to Westminster next week, and stand by too, possibly, for the new policy to be challenged in the courts. The saga of the small boats in the Channel certainly isn't over yet. Phil Hornby, ITV News.
Migrant welfare groups have been quick to attack the Prime Minister's Rwanda migration deal, describing it as cruel, costly and unworkable. Sarah Saunders has been getting reaction in Kent and is live for us in Dover. Sarah, many more migrant boats arrived there today.
Yeah, it's been a warm and calm day here in Dover, and even as Boris Johnson outlined his plans for their future, hundreds more people arrived here in small boats. Operations were carried out by the RNLI and by Border Force, but for the first time from today they're being overseen by the Navy. I asked the leader of Kent County Council specifically how he thinks these new plans will affect Kent.
I think naturally any of us would look at people being transported across such a distance with concern. I think the question is how it works in practice. As far as I can see at the moment, it is unlikely to apply to under 18s, who are of course one of the key areas that's always been a major issue for us here in Kent. So I think it would be premature to make a huge judgment on it, but clearly to the degree that there is some reduction in the channel crossings, that would clearly be welcome as far as Kent is concerned.
Well, refugee welfare groups have called this plan unworkable on the one hand and unethical on the other. The Kent Refugee Action Network said that the government is showing pure hypocrisy in the way they are treating Ukrainian refugees on the one hand and those from the rest of the world.
Well, this looks to us like another piece of performative cruelty by the government, who pledged to give a warm welcome to people fleeing conflict in Ukraine, but seem to be turning a cold shoulder on people fleeing conflict and persecution in other places. We want the public to be very sceptical of this plan. We think it's going to cost a huge amount of money, will damage Britain's reputation, and actually we think it's unlikely that many people will ever actually get sent there.
Today, Boris Johnson stepped away from suggestions that small boats would be turned back in the middle of the channel. He accepted that the new plan will probably face legal challenges and said in the background he continues to press Paris and the EU for a returns policy, which he said would solve the problem.
Sarah in Dover, thank you.
In other news, Kent police have referred themselves to the police watchdog following the deaths of 2 people at a tattoo parlour in Canterbury. Emergency services were called to Lower Bridge Street on Monday evening, where a man in his 50s and a woman in her 30s were pronounced dead at the scene. The woman's death is being treated as suspicious. However, officers are not looking for anyone else in connection with the investigation.
A man from Kent has been charged for his suspected involvement in smuggling £16 million of crystal meth into Australia. 24 kilos were discovered by Australian Border Force upon arrival in the country. Kelvin Filkins, who's 52 and from Sevenoaks, is alleged to have paid for the shipment containing the Class 8 drugs.
Transport officials in Kent say their priority this weekend is to keep traffic moving and minimise disruption on the roads.
But they admit that expected record numbers making Easter getaway trips combined with the ongoing lorry freight backlog is likely to mean longer journey times. A large stretch of the coastbound M20 remains closed so that it can be used to hold HGVs as part of Operation Brock, meaning lots of diversions for car drivers.
Well, let's go live to Kit Bradshaw at one of the expected pinch points this long bank holiday weekend. That's Brenley Corner near Faversham. Looks like quite a queue, or slow traffic at least, in the background. I guess that's a sign of things to come, Kit.
Yeah, Kent's Road still feeling the fallout of the suspension of P&O's ferry services across the channel over the past 4 weeks. But added to that, this long Easter weekend, the 4 days ahead of us, expected to be some of the busiest on record. The AA says there'll be 27 million car journeys across the UK. And as you say, Brenley Corner, a pinch point in Kent. From the air, you get a better sense of why this roundabout can get so clogged up, because the M2 comes here and then the A2 to Dover. So any cars heading for Dover, anyone lucky enough to have a ferry ticket, has to come off at this roundabout and swing round and head on to Dover. But it's not just tourists caught up in the backlog, it's also local residents and business people in the surrounding towns and villages.
2.5 hour drive to get home, which is normally an hour.
So I work at the hospital in admin, and when I do go into the office, it takes about an extra half an hour to get in. So it's just a bit frustrating, really.
I'm getting fed up with it, yeah, very fed up with it, because I pass here all the time, so adds another half an hour more to my journey every time.
Showing their frustration there. What's being done to try and keep things moving?
Well, one part of the enforcement operation you can see behind me, the police officers looking for any lorries trying to jump the queue and sending them back all the way to the start of Operation Brock on the M20. There's also the threat of fines, but transport officials admit that long term, more lorry holding facilities are needed, and they argue they should be outside this county.
The trouble is that we're on a knife edge. Anytime that there are problems across the channel, then it's Kent that suffers. It's the residents, it's the businesses, it's etc. The tourist industry suffers in Kent. So we are, as a Resilience Forum and all the parties within the Resilience Forum, really pushing government to find other solutions outside Kent so that these lorries don't constantly pour into Kent and gridlock our roads.
Some positive news just in, though, from National Highways is that some of those more stringent Operation Brock measures are beginning to be lifted this evening. Op Brock 0, the closures at junction 10A on the M20 to 11, that's being lifted with the hope that the coastbound contraflow for cars will reopen on the M20 overnight tonight. So perhaps an early Easter present for anyone expecting to make a long journey in Kent over the next 4 days.
Not quite at the Christmas period yet, thank goodness. Kit, good luck getting home for the time being. Thank you very much.
With cross-channel P&O sailings disrupted in Kent, many are flying away for their Easter getaway, but airports have also seen their fair share of problems over the past week. James Dunham is at Gatwick for us. James, what is the situation there tonight?
Over the last few weeks, between 40 and 50 flights a day, Sangeeta, have been cancelled at this airport. But like the M20, it's an improving picture here with just 11 flights cancelled today. That is still disruptive, of course, but significantly less. For the passengers that are able to get on board a flight, there's been a real buzz at the airports today. EasyJet are expecting around 400,000 people over the coming 4 days. Compare that to Easter 2019, before the pandemic, when there were over 500,000, so slightly down. For those passengers, though, that I have been speaking to, they're just desperate to get away, to get on holiday, and many of them have experienced their own delays.
We actually got a flight cancelled yesterday by EasyJet, so we've had to go a day late. We're actually having to fly back to Manchester on the way home as well, so...
It's a bit more hassle than what you would have liked.
It's been a bit stressed.
November 2019.
Yeah.
So that's the time we booked for the holiday.
So we booked quite a while you've been waiting.
Yeah, so we booked to travel May 2020. And then obviously we couldn't travel. It's been a long way, and it's literally my first time
on a plane.
So you must be really excited.
Yes.
EasyJet, this airport's largest carrier, is planning to run 6,000 flights across its network over the bank holiday. Further cancellations are planned for the rest of this month. The airlines say they are already in the schedules, and passengers have been informed. They've been affected by the fact that workers are off sick with COVID, but also across the airline industry there is a shortage of workers because the sector hasn't been able to employ enough staff in time for the Easter getaway.
That snapback in demand, that pent-up demand, has returned so fast that the airlines and airports have been unable to deal with it and cope and deliver the quality of service we'd expect as consumers. So it's been a very, very difficult period. And sadly, that difficulty will continue for some weeks yet until they've hired enough staff.
That demand can only be good news for hoteliers who 2 years ago weren't even able to open.
The moods were low, we didn't know, how things are going to be, how long it's going to last for. But now that things have really picked up again, it's fabulous that things are going well. And we're busy, our rates are high. We're getting the bookings coming in, and there's a good positive vibe.
Also worth saying, the Gatwick Express train line is suspended this weekend. Why? Well, it wouldn't be a bank holiday Easter weekend, Sangeeta, would it, without some engineering works?
James, thank you.
Now, the ITV Evening News is, of course, coming up after us with details about what's on their programme this evening. Here's Lucrezia Meridian.
Coming up, asylum seekers to be given one-way tickets to Rwanda. The Prime Minister announced some migrants will be sent 4,000 miles away. But Labour says it's all a distraction from the Partygate scandal and the plans simply won't work. Also, long queues at airports, railway stations and on the roads ahead of this weekend. We'll get the latest on the Great Easter Getaway. And Prince Charles takes the Queen's place at the Royal Maundy service as it's announced she'll miss another traditional event this Sunday. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Around 2/3 of adults in this country are classified as overweight or obese, and the NHS spends billions of pounds on obesity-related ill health. A new weight loss drug is available on the NHS later this year, and it's been hailed by some as a game changer.
But on ITV's Tonight programme, some are asking whether we're pinning too much hope on one medical solution. Kevin Ashford reports.
5 years ago, Alex suffered a collapsed lung. He was unable to exercise and quickly began to gain weight. Through online research, he found out about a drug called semaglutide and got a private prescription. Combined with a strict exercise and nutrition plan, Alex says the drug played a big part in his 4-stone weight loss.
I would credit the vast majority of my success to the drug. That's not to take away from my achievements in having changed my lifestyle. If I had not discovered this medication, I could honestly say to you that, it's a possibility that I wouldn't be here today, that my daughter wouldn't have her father and my wife wouldn't have her husband. That's how big a difference it made to my life.
The new drug, branded Wegovy, which is set to become available on the NHS, is a higher dose version of the one Alex took.
Semaglutide works by creating the hormone that we all feel after you've eaten a meal, so that feeling of fullness. So essentially when someone's on this medication, they will have that feeling when eating, so they'll stop eating sooner. But equally in between meals, they'll feel that so that they don't crave the need to eat food in between meals as well.
In a global trial funded by the pharmaceutical company behind the drug, participants lost on average almost 2.5 stone. They were also kept on a strict health and exercise regime. The NHS drug regulator NICE is recommending a maximum 2-year prescription for the drug. Some experts have raised concerns about possible adverse reactions.
Side effects were mainly feeling of nausea, gastrointestinal problems, gallbladder pain, and in a few rare cases acute pancreatitis, which is quite a serious side effect.
Most GPs won't be able to prescribe the new drug, which is administered by injection. Patients will need to be referred to one of the country's few specialist weight management centres. NICE recommends that only obese adults with a body mass index of at least 35 and one weight-related health condition can qualify for the new drug. NICE also told the Tonight programme that final guidance on Wegovy will be published at the end of next month. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
And you can see more here at 8:30. Now it's time for the sport with Sarah. Sarah, a crucial weekend.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Sangeeta. The Easter weekend is traditionally one packed with sporting fixtures, and this one is, of course, no different. And some of the most crucial fixtures are the 2 Gillingham games, which could go a long way to seal their fate in League One. Gill's boss Neil Harris takes his side to mid-table Cheltenham tomorrow, and on Easter Monday his side host Fleetwood, with the Kent team heading into the weekend in the bottom 4 on goal difference. Crawley Town, meanwhile, travel to Newport tomorrow and host Walsall on Monday. And in the Premier League, Brighton are at Tottenham on Saturday, with the Seagulls looking to cause another upset following last weekend's victory over Arsenal. Now, away from football and an entirely new sport. Hardo uses video game technology to transform an ordinary sports hall into an augmented reality court. Originating in Japan, it is now being played all over the world, with the current UK champions hailing from Hove. Here's Andy Dickinson.
Small businesses and local teams, the heart of our communities. eBay sponsors ITV Regional Sport Reports.
To the casual observer, this may look like children miming a game of dodgeball, but take a peek behind the goggles and reality itself is being challenged in this augmented experience. Hardo is a sport so new it doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, yet it may represent the future in more ways than one.
It is very physical. We're tricking the kids, actually. The parents are all very happy because a lot of kids doing video games now, they are sitting on their video gaming chair or playing with their iPhone. But with this, they're getting the screen time they want, as well as the exercise that the parents really want. And they do need it to be active, and they're socializing as well.
New players, like myself, can warm up by competing against virtual robots. Motion sensors in the wrist pads and targets in the headset, helping create fireballs and shields with various levels of gameplay and, well, yes, failure. So my first match against 2 killer robots, they KO'd me 6 times, I KO'd them 1 time. Time for round 2.
You have to have like lots of hand-eye coordination and great aim to get the opponent's petals and stuff.
I like the strategy to it because with your parameters, like how you can make your bullets bigger or the bullets faster, it can really affect the game.
I can't help thinking they're all aiming at me. I've got my team around me now.
You have esports and you have traditional sports. It's sort of a combination of those things. As you see the players moving around a lot, dodging a lot, getting low. It's a lot of physical activity. Also using their headset, similar to VR.
I'm getting that child.
It's great fun. It's great fun.
I got 1 KO.
28.5%.
28.5% accuracy.
As well for first time.
Thank you.
How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel quite exhausted. Having quickly dispatched with this pretender, these champions will now focus on the UK Spring Cup in Birmingham this weekend, the World Championships in Tokyo in December. Andy Dickinson, ITV News, home.
Yeah, we all think Andy really enjoyed that. Certainly gets them moving, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm tired watching that. Sarah, thank you.
I see a kind of works team building
Do you?
day coming on.
Okay.
That could be fun.
We could practice. Look,
Let's do
we
that.
can do it now.
Okay, blimey. Maybe later. Right, now he's well known as a presenter of shows including Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but Chris Tarrant is also a campaigner for a cause very close to his heart.
Yes, it was 6 years ago that Chris suffered a life-threatening stroke, and today he was in Sussex to open new facilities for other survivors. Here's Malcolm Shaw.
It was terrifying. And they rushed me in. Jane had to sign all sorts of forms. About inheritance mainly.
He jokes about it now, but Chris Tarrant knows all too well the devastating impact of suffering a stroke. Today he was in Horsham to open new facilities at the Phoenix Stroke Club. 6 years ago, Chris fell ill on a flight home from filming abroad.
And when I got to the hospital, they were amazing. I mean, I had about 3 weeks in hospital, but it was scary, I mean, very scary. I was convinced I still might have a second stroke. And he said, no, you've been very lucky. They pumped me full of drugs and sort of sent me off.
It was another broadcasting legend, Cliff Mitchellmore, who opened the Phoenix Stroke Club back in 1982. It was housed in a disused civil defence building next to the Forest School. Now £250,000 has been raised and spent to improve facilities.
We've extended the building, I mean it's more than doubled in size, which means that we can accommodate more members, but also we can accommodate more members who are wheelchair users, they have limited mobility. We were previously having to restrict those numbers, and obviously those are the very people that we want to get in here.
When a stroke strikes, you need to act fast.
In the UK, someone suffers a stroke every 5 minutes. Symptoms include weakness in the face or arm and speech problems. Prompt treatment is vital. Daryl Gaylor was just 53, fit and healthy when it happened to him.
I've been quite lucky that my speech has always been quite good, a little bit slow, but it's just the physical challenges, so I can't really got much feeling in my left side, so I have to walk with the stick. And I have a carer coming to help me get ready in the morning, so it's just that independence that you lose. That's the most frustrating and challenging piece, really.
Around 50 stroke survivors already use the Phoenix Club every week. It's somewhere they can come to share their experiences and rebuild their lives. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Horsham.
Now let's turn our attention to the weather. Holly is here. And Holly, you want to pick up on a theme we touched on earlier in the week?
Yes, I talked about coastal mist and fog. Well, we saw it this morning. Take a look. This was Hastings. In fact, you can see a lovely fog bow here as well, which is a bit unusual. That little white curve you can see in the sky. But generally speaking, it burnt back. And for most of us, it's been a lovely day. Temperatures inland locally up to 20 degrees, which isn't bad, although always kind of fresher and cooler into the coast.
So all those businesses waiting for this weekend, are they going to get the weather they want?
It's looking pretty decent. We're always going to have this contrast, I think, between the coast and inland, where it'll feel a bit cooler and fresher. touch of mist and fog. Hopefully it won't be too much of a factor, but it is certainly a risk. Overall though, pretty decent. Later on Monday we could start to see some rain moving in, so that's just something to bear in mind. Some uncertainty about that at the moment. Very quickly, I also want to touch on UV levels because they are a little bit higher than you might expect this weekend. Partly the sun is strong anyway now. It's about as strong as it is at the end of August, believe it or not, at the moment. But also we've got slightly depleted ozone levels, so it's just allowing a little bit more of the sun's rays to come through, and so you're just that little bit more likely to burn. So top end of moderate at the moment, which is, you know, for some people relatively likely to burn.
So sunblock at the ready.
Absolutely.
It's Holly now with your weather.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
A bit of a treat then for the Easter weekend in many respects. We've got some warm sunshine, the peak of the temperatures probably tomorrow. After that, a slight tumble down, but still some pleasant weather to be had. Mist and fog at times, I think less extensively than we saw last night though and this morning. And then I've put dry until Monday. There is the chance on Monday that we could start to see some rain moving in from the west, but there is uncertainty about the timing on that. So high pressure generally keeping weather fronts at bay for the time being. We pick up a bit more of an easterly drift later in the weekend, hence that drop in temperatures. And then this weather front approaches on Monday. And as I say, some uncertainty on the timing, but that could start to bring some rain our way for Easter Monday. At the moment, there's some bright weather out there, and into tonight underneath starry skies, some mist and fog forms, and temperatures shouldn't drop as low as we saw last night, but I think valleys around 7, 8, 9 degrees for many to start tomorrow morning. So some mist and fog to kick the day off. That should lift and clear. You'll notice a bit of fog there in the channel, which perhaps is quite close to the coast, but hopefully not too much of a problem. Some cloud bubbles up into the afternoon, always cooler and fresher around coastal areas where that breeze comes in off the sea. Inland though, high teens, possibly low 20s. Still some pleasant weather to be had through Saturday and Sunday as well. A little bit of a drop there in temperatures as we head into Easter Monday. Uncertainty about the timing, but possibly some rain moving in later.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And in just a moment here, the ITV Evening News continues with Lucrezia Millerini.
You're back with the latest updates?
I am indeed, Matt.
Superb.
Looking
Bulletins
forward to it.
throughout the weekend, of course. We're back with our half-hour programme on Tuesday. From the team, though, for now, have a great bank holiday weekend.
Happy Easter. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.